Alright, so I wanted to show kind of a state of everything before I start doing any type of cosmetic restoration here. Um, these are obviously not in great shape. I bought this machine for, it was like 40 bucks, really just so I could have these replacement keycaps because, these are, I think this machine is missing like 10 of them, and I got it for parts and ended up not needing them. So, I figured I probably needed to do something with it because, I was able to get it working pretty perfectly after like, 30 minutes. So it's not like it's non-functional or needed anything to work, but I mean, I can't leave it like this because obviously this is not good. I did not consider that the diameter of these springs, the little key lever things on the bottom, were possibly different diameters per column in addition to per row, but I'm sure I will figure that out when I'm putting it back together and it doesn't work. Maybe I'll get lucky. I think I have a set of calipers, but they're plastic, and I got them at Harbor Freight for I think like $2, which I got the checkout, so they were not going to cut it. So anyway, as soon as I took this thing apart, I just went ahead and removed the backing on these. I haven't done any cleaning or anything with this other than just getting the backing off. And the reason for that is, for one, I just assumed that was the process. I started taking this apart. I didn't really look it up at all. I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to do this. But I mean, the state of this bottom plate here, I mean, it's pretty bad. I have it in this bag because it smells like a sock full of wet pennies with all the copper oxide stuff. I mean, you can see the bright green stuff on these, and like there was so much of it on these plates that I just kind of scraped off. Let's see. I have the top plate here, which is especially probably what I'm going to spend the most time on, just because that's the one you see, and that's the one with all the keys in the way, so you can't really do anything with it unless you remove the whole thing. So here I have done that, and first thing I did is just try to gingerly remove the backer here, because I know I'm going to have to try and replicate this with, I'm guessing, a couple layers of cork or something. You can see the back, got all this really super fun, bright green copper oxide that was coating this here. And of course, after cleaning off all the bright green oxide stuff, right under it was exposed steel, which, it is what it is. This looks better than I was expecting, considering the state of it when I got it off. These little, these brackets are a little more of an issue than I had expected them to be. I mean, honestly, I just had to get everything out of here, use a vise basically to press the brackets close enough to the plate so that I could cut off the tips of these rivets. And I'm hoping I left enough meat on the rivets to be able to reuse them. They're just these little brass rivets. I mean, they're nothing special, but somehow they were. I mean, it's like 100 years old, so I probably shouldn't be complaining. But I was like, how is this not wanting to come off? I mean, it's just whatever. It doesn't look like I damaged it more than it already was. The one thing I am gonna do, just because looking at this thing, it's not like I have all that much to lose, is I'm gonna try to strip all of the lacquer off and polish the copper. And then as for a coating at that point, I'm not sure. I might just, spray some Bow Shield on it. Or maybe I'll get some old school lacquer, or maybe I'll just shellac the whole thing so it looks like a big old candy coated penny. Anyway, the reason I'm going to do that is because, I took the little, whatever you want to call it, patent infringement plate off. Um, and after polishing just very lightly on the areas where the lacquer is, clearly no longer there, it did polish the copper pretty well. I mean, I say pretty well. It's better than it was. I mean, it kind of looks weird, but for the rest of this, even the areas that do have the lacquer there, like if I'm going to take any of it off, I'm going to have to take it all off. I mean, these gouges right here, I mean, I'm just going to have to strip everything, polish it, and hopefully I can coat it with something and it won't look so bad. But I'll definitely make an update with that because I haven't seen many videos with people really going through and polishing the copper after stripping the lacquer. If someone has, it's great. I would love to see that because, this is, I'm just I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going with it. This guy is definitely, so I think when I got this machine for parts, this right here was probably the reason for the $40 price tag. That's rough. It's this little front thing here is not doing too hot. Um, I mean, I don't even there's a few different. I got two different metal oxides here. I got some rust that's pretty thick there, and then I got this nice copper oxide, and I'm just gonna have to figure that one out. I mean, this is not gonna look perfect, but I'm gonna try to do my best to just strip everything off. I'm gonna try to remove this rust in a way that doesn't. I mean, that's who knows, but it can't look worse than it does now. So I got that going for me. Um, rather than do this in a super, professional watchmaker, which I am not, I decided, okay, well, let me see if I can just soak one of these whole keys, cap included, in evaporust, and maybe it won't dissolve these little celluloid keycaps into some kind of like powder. And this the green one's been in there for 48 hours. I think the white yellow one's been in there for a good 24, and it does not look any worse than when it went in. That's for sure. The Vaporust is weird. I wouldn't surprise me if I take this thing out and then it looks beautiful and then like crumbles in my hands like it's turning into dust or something. Because I mean, I'm wary of these keycaps. They off gas so much that I had a green one sealed in a little container for like, I don't know, a month. And I opened it up and it was just this enormous smell of celluloid acid, something just really. So yeah, I have no idea. I don't know what I'm doing chemical wise. I don't think I've done anything to create any mustard gas yet. So I don't know. Fingers crossed there. But I'm gonna make a video of what this thing ends up looking like because hopefully it looks better than it does now. All right, so I probably took, I don't know, probably almost 10 hours of like trying to figure out how to polish this and not have it look terrible. I mean, this is where it is now is probably as good as I'm going to be able to get it. Um, and the main issue I was having, besides once I figured out how to strip the lacquer off, which mostly just was me scrubbing on it with a brass brush, with just this Red Bear stuff, which is oxalic acid for copper and brass. Um, and I had the fun effect there of this is a brass brush, and it was perfectly fine when I started, and this is copper, and both of these are perfectly okay to polish. Um, but when I use this on copper in the presence of the acid and the water, I had a little galvanic corrosion going on, so this would get just eaten up. Um, but the copper was fine, so I just kept brushing and like washing the corrosion off of this every time and using more of it. Finally got that off. Um, I just kind of used some whatever, like a microfiber cloth and some little cotton polishing wheels to try and get this as good as I could. And the only way I was able to get it to maintain any type of an even finish was when I would finish polishing it, it would all look like whatever side I just finished, like this side would look okay, and then this side would be starting to turn brown and all colors of the corrosion rainbow. Um, but this stuff right here, whatever rust free is phosphoric acid, and it was a light enough acid that I could kind of just quickly give everything a coating of that, which would turn it kind of slightly pinkish, shiny, get rid of most of that corrosion. But I had to immediately wipe that off, like within a few seconds, and then give it a coating of some Bow Shield um, to get it to not just completely corrode overnight. Or, so sometimes I was like literally watching this corrode in front of my eyes. I have not figured out what I'm going to do as a final coating on this. I know that this is not going to be at all fine just to leave it with some of this on it, because this corner right here um, developed some discoloration overnight, a little bit of darkening. I'm not sure what this will look like a week from now. I mean, it's probably going to look pretty bad. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to use, give it another polishing, and then coat it with that pretty fast. Um, the good news is the little buttons. I just had this one button sitting in evaporust for I think 2 full days, um, and I mean that looks good enough for my purposes. It cleaned that off pretty well. I kind of maybe brushed it for like 2 seconds to see what that would do, but I think I'm probably not even going to do that. I was just happy that the the keycap here didn't appear to get damaged at all. I chose this one because the 7 was already kind of getting rubbed off, and it doesn't look like it's gotten any worse. Um, so I went ahead and threw the rest of the 7 keys in some evaporust, and I'm just going to keep going like that while I try to figure out how I'm going to coat this and how I'm going to deal with the little front piece that has the little windows to see the number wheels. All right. So this is the internals of the machine. Um, Here's something interesting. I was removing the number wheel, and I had to pull really hard to get this out. And I actually pulled so hard that I stretched the axle all the way out. So now I have this weird problem where the shaft is like 5 times it's longer than the whole machine. This is insane. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Actually, for real though, what happened was I pulled this thing out really hard and I bent it because I'm not very patient with these things. So this was in there pretty good, and it was seized to a couple of the wheels. And when I removed this, they all dropped out like they were supposed to, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to get that straightened out. But for the super cool thing right here, I just needed to go and grab some of my welding rods. These were just mild steel, copper coated carbon steel rods. I had a bunch of them that were all in a straight tube for oxyacetylene welding, so I was able to cut another shaft for replacing the one that I bent. And the good news is I have so much of this that I can make silly jokes like this guy. This is like really fun. Um, I don't know. This isn't probably amusing, but like, it's like check that out, you know. Anyway, uh, so with these removed, um, I'm not a comptometer expert, and this is one of the calculators where they're pretty ubiquitous. So there's a ton of YouTube videos and guides for rebuilding these, and I just needed to do this, so I'm not going to go into the proper terminology and all the stuff about this that I don't know, but I think I'll demonstrate the mechanism working here because I think it's pretty cool to see this without the number wheels. Um, so this thing, compared to other calculators, is pretty simple. Um, so each number in each row has a lever that goes all the way through. Basically, just pushes these levers that run the length of the machine. And you can see the machine is pretty modular. It's like a bunch of stacked rows of the same thing over and over again. Just copied and pasted like one of those old boilers that have a bunch of plates stacked on top of each other. And the hinges for the levers are all back here. So they have these gigantic spring-loaded levers that run the entire length of this thing for each column. And they all end right at the front with this little mechanism here. So just looking at one of these is a rack that when you push down the lever, or you push a button to add, it's going to make a bell sound because it's the first one. Come on. Come on. There we go. All right, so I'm pushing it down. Anyway, each of these is a certain length. So this is length 7. So the way that they figured to have, instead of having a bunch of different linkages for each number on each column, making it super complicated like some of these machines, it's just how long the button is. So if I want to add a 7, I push this thing down, and it's long enough to get down to 7, and then that's where it bottoms out. So the rack goes down as long as the button is, and then the ratchet in here gets rotated back upwards, and the spring-loaded lever returns, and that's what does the adding. So do that again. I'll push this one all the way down to the bottom, which is 9. So, to make this simple, hey, you got the 9, that's the biggest number, and so that goes all the way down. That should be 9 clicks on the ratchet, and then on the return, it adds 9. And then you just have a little carry mechanism in here that once that hits, carries over to the next register. This is a better word for these, I'm sure. I'm just going to call them like doohickeys. I like to use the word assembly because it makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about. I like the words armature and assembly. So here's the assembly. Yes, I know what I'm doing. Anyway, so to try and demonstrate this, just because I think it's pretty neat, this thing can carry, all 10 digits pretty easily. And this mechanism I think stands out because once they figured out how to do multiple rows at the same time, which I think was in the Model B, that it goes Model A through Model, like, it's a K, J, this is a J, so it's pretty late already in the comptometer thing, but I'm going to try to hit 2 buttons at once here, which is going to be hard without anything installed, but let's say I'm adding a number in the first and second column. Doesn't matter what, doesn't matter. I can do them both at the same time, and it will still carry properly. I can add as many digits as I want. I could do all 10 if I had, 2 hands on this thing, I guess, and was some kind of superhuman accountant person. But I'm going to try to demonstrate the carry real quick here on all 10 just because I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to start over on the last row because it's a little easier. But first one, the bell goes off. I'm just going to go ahead through here and add 9 to every column. I hope I did this right. It's impossible to tell because I don't have my really long number wheel thing to help me. Okay, so if I did that right, I should have a 9 in every one of these. And I'm just going to add a 1, really tiny little 1 on this column. Okay, I heard a click. There we go. I hope that was able to see that in the video, but I was able to carry every single one of these into the 11th column. So, I mean, theoretically, if you were, they had the whole schools for how to use these things. These were like stenography, whatever machines. I mean, once you figure out how to do this, you could be pretty fast. And the idea was you probably weren't even looking at this thing when you were using it. Okay, so now I get another opportunity to show another cool feature of this thing. So as you can see, I got the second column appears to be locked, which is actually a feature of this thing, which is super cool if you're trying to fix it and you don't know that it's locked up because it's supposed to be locked up because of this very early kind of error correction system they had, which it's pretty frustrating. See, anyway, so basically I've got my numbers and I push one down kind of halfway, but not all the way. It's going to catch. There's a mechanism buried in here somewhere that will prevent this column from returning all the way up to the top and is also locking in place all the other columns. So if this were to happen on the machine on the top, all the buttons are still going to be, up. Like you're not going to be able to tell that this has happened, but you go to type in another number and you can't because these are all locked except for this column. So the idea is you make a mistake, it catches it, and you go to add another number and you see that there's a problem. And you can't see this with the top removed, but there's one little red button on this model, the top right hand corner, and it pushes down on this. Here we go. It's an armature. This guy. You can tell by the way it is. That's what it says in the machine elements encyclopedias. It just says that's how it is. That's what that is. Anyway, this is the armature. But you hold this down, the button, and the armature, and you're able to figure out which button you made a mistake on, which you're not going to remember. But let's say you do, and you go and you finish your calculation. Theoretically, use a little cheat. There we go. Theoretically, what's supposed to happen is you figure it out, and then you fix your mistake, and then everything's great, and then you can keep adding another, 7-digit number to your already 300 digits. And see, we did it again. That's this thing is it's cool once you've seen it once. It's like, wow, that's cool. You got this error detection going. And then the second time, it's like, wow, that's really annoying. And then the third time, you just want to figure out how to disable it. So I don't know how many times this thing has screwed me up trying to use this thing, but it's cool. I might just tack weld this thing because I'm tired. I'm tired of this stupid error correction. Okay. Anyway, so that's the basics of it. Like I said, I'm not a Comptometer expert, but I do appreciate how robust this thing is and how simple it is. Like pretty much, this is one of the only machines I've worked on where once I got these number wheels out, I'm pretty sure I could have coated this thing with oven cleaner and stuck it in the oven. I think I probably could have dropped the whole thing in a vat of hydrochloric acid and then just rinsed it off, and it probably would have been okay. Like I don't think I would drop it because then I'd have to deal with bending all these like fins back here. But in terms of I don't know. I really appreciated how overbuilt everything was back in the day. You know, like there really wasn't a whole lot of effort on this thing into, hey, how can we save weight? How can we put a bunch of phenolic gears in here? Or how can we use materials science research to make gears that are wafer thin that you can just bend like a tin can popper or a bottle cap, you know? Like that's back in the, I guess this was made in the 20s and 30s. This was they didn't care, you know, and like I also appreciate the copper plating on this thing. I mean, you know, I don't think they've had copper plated calculators since they stopped making the copper plated comptometers. But anyway, that's just a brief shot of the mechanism and a warning not to pull on the shaft too hard for the number wheels. All right, so I just pulled this out of, I don't know, maybe a 10-hour, 12-hour evaporest bath. And I thought this was pretty cool. You can literally watch this thing just degrade in real time. Uh, I pulled this thing out like 2 minutes ago. It looked okay. It didn't look this bad. I'm pretty sure this is mostly just what happens when you. I washed it with some IPA first. So this is probably going to look a little better once I rub off this surface crap. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. Okay. Um, I'm not so sure about not so sure about this over here, which is why I put it in there in the first place. Um, I mean, I pretty much threw it in there because that was so bad that there's really not anything I could do. Um, which, you know, this is going to look pretty silly with the somewhat polished top and then this thing. Um, I'm almost to the point of just getting some like bright pink neon Krylon and turning this into a like horrible abomination type of thing. But you never know, you know. Honestly, you know, this looks bad. Uh, I might be able to save some of the copper, which sounds kind of stupid now that I say it, because this right here is clearly not coated with anything anymore. Um, but the one thing that's tripping me up about this more than anything is these stupid little decimal indicators. Um, Mostly just because these little, I don't know what you want to call them. I mean, it's some kind of press fit rivet type thing that's these things are hinging on. They're so short, and there's like no room to do anything with these that in order to remove these, I would have to completely destroy whatever hinge that is rivet that they're sitting on there with, and then have to find some kind of replacement. Um, you know, that being said, there's pretty much no way I'll be able to do much with this without taking these off. So, you know, I'm just going to have to begrudgingly figure out how to do that. Um, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this thing. But, you know, I'm glad I got it, a shot of it in this state because that's like impressively bad. You know, I think that if you were trying to make something look um, like a movie prop for some like horrible disease rotted out piece of like just trash that you would probably struggle to make anything that looks worse than this. Um, but I don't know, man. I'll see what I can do with this. Wanted to get some footage of this plate here before I put the cork liner in, because somehow a combination of simple green wire brush, some like Brillo pads, this ended up looking pretty cool. Um, it was not intentional in any way, but I kind of want to take credit and say, hey, look at my oil rubbed copper sculpture looking thing. Never mind that it's on the back and it's not supposed to look like this at all. All right, so I wanted to get a shot of the case before I reassembled everything. This front piece right here, this turned out a lot better than I expected, considering the rust I was dealing with. I was able to polish this. I asked an artist I know that works with metal sculpting how I could possibly try to save this, and he had recommended this company in like metal wax. And I wouldn't have probably considered a paste wax because I was assuming it would be some kind of, I don't know, something I would spray on. But, this was basically the same as waxing a car, just applying the paste wax, buffing it out after like an hour. And if it was not going to work, I would have known by now because this thing oxidizes so fast after being just completely exposed to the oxygen, I guess. So I'm pretty sure this is going to last longer than something like an adhesive or whatever, an aerosol spray. The top plate here, it's about as good as I could get it, and like, what is it? Perfect is the enemy of good enough, and that's what I tell myself when I'm, when I just can't do it anymore. So this, the wax on here was a little difficult to apply. Just, we have all these fun little slots. There's the oilers that, you get a little wax in there and then it hardens, the spots of the rust here. This was another issue where, I wasn't really going to be able to remove this without stripping the copper off like it happened here. So as a result, there was some, there's a word for this. It's like the surface is not even, there's holes in it. Yeah, I'm gonna edit that out in post and use the proper word. But there's it would fill up with wax, all of these spots, which is probably good because it's gonna seal it. But when I go to buff it, the wax would get everywhere, and I just kind of had to let it be what it is. The bottom of this, so this this was kind of right when I was getting this put back together is when I started. Oh, there we go. Yep, is when I started to. All right. Okay, so when I got this thing put back together is when I started to kind of be okay with letting some things slide. Like these guys, these little rivets that I had tried to, surgically remove in a way that I could get these back on there. That was not working. So what I did was I just put a little bit of contact adhesive. You can see it kind of reflecting there. This was already holding up pretty flat. I mean, it's not sagging at all, which is what I was afraid of. And I'm not too worried about it. Most of this gets pushed in by the machine in some places when you assemble it. And I was able to get this thing, hooked into the machine to make sure that there wasn't going to be anything getting in the way, and it was all right. I did not worry about any of the whatever. There's a lot of complicated indentations they made in here that I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna wing it, and I'm hoping that doesn't come back to bite me. But other than that, it slid in pretty well into these the lips on the sides of this thing, and hopefully when I get this thing completely all the keys put back in, it'll still be able to function. The whatever case itself, the bottom plate turned out pretty well. This was a lot simpler. I pretty much just had to cut some holes out on the bottom one. I didn't use any adhesive at all for this. I was just able to get it slid under the lip, and it's got this little bar that's screwed in from the bottom to hold it in place. These ones on the side, pretty much same thing. I used a little bit of adhesive to kind of, like right here, just to keep this from flapping down. This was the only time that I did any kind of separate thicknesses for the cork, just for the lever, because I wasn't sure how much that was going to matter, but looking at the original liner, I didn't want to chance it. So I got this, and it's going to go back in completely like that. And an experienced craftsman, or whatever the term is, would probably try to either replate the copper on here. Um, an experienced craftsman probably would have polished the sides or not polished any of this at all, and definitely would have been able to figure out how to reattach all of these little decimal indicator guys right here. But would an experienced craftsman do this? This little thing, look at that. See all those? Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, I wanted to document some of the issues I'm having with reassembly. This is a lot more frustrating than I had anticipated, which, I think that's usually how these go. In fact, I don't think anyone would work on these ever if they knew exactly how bad it was going to get. Anyway, see if I can get my light. Nope. Yeah, we're having some lighting difficulties. All right. So this one right here, this column, this column is giving me the most trouble. I started with the ones and then moved on to the eights, the nines. And that was, the idea there is that if I put the last column in and the first column in, then I can have the spacing in between the levers. It's not just one lever running the length of each column. It's like 3. So I'll press it like an 8. So I'm hitting a 8 right now, and you can see a few levers in this area. And there's different, okay, so it is, guess what it is? It's the error thing, the error detection system. That's great. I really love it when that happens. Yep, okay. Anyway, I'm this close to just welding that so it never does that again. Anyway, the odd and even numbers do a little bit different with the levers. That's probably the best technical description I've ever given. Is just that it just don't do the right thing at the same time. Basically, I can do a 1 and a 9, but those are both odd numbers. And once I hit the 2's column, it became a little bit trickier. This column especially, unfortunately, because all of these levers are interact with every lever in here basically has to slide past or interact with every number. So if one of these is messed up, none of them are going to work. So if I get this 2 inserted, you can already see, yep, it just went from 8 to 9. Supposedly I'm adding 2. Okay, okay, so that's clearly not working right. Any of these is slightly misaligned. Maybe it's rubbing on one of the levers on this side, maybe on that side, maybe the lever itself. There's a bunch of different things that could be causing that. It could just be, hey, the friction is just a little too much friction. I'm not sure why this one in particular is an issue. I was looking from the bottom. I couldn't tell if there's anything specifically wrong with that one compared to the others. So unfortunately, it's just going to be a game of, okay, does this key do any better? All right, no. Well, what if I change out the little spring return thing? What about doing this thing? What about just doing a better job of lubricating and cleaning? I was able to move down to the 8s without an issue because I started with the 2s and that was a problem. But now I got an 8 inserted. And so now I have an odd and an even on this column. And it seems like it's doing a little better. I'm afraid of getting all the way through with all of these keys just to get to this 2 and have it still be a problem and have to remove every single one of them and try again. And unfortunately, if you ever tried to reassemble one of these things, it's not as simple as, oh, I'll just install this key over here, and now I want to do that one, or I want to go this way. There's a very, specific order that needs to be followed, because you can see that there's get a little, I hate this light, move in right here. Every one of these, dang it, there we go. So we got this one hooked in here, and it overlaps with this one, which overlaps with this one, which overlaps with this one, which overlaps with this one, and so on and so forth. So I need to start from this side. I mean, I've done some things that are really frustrating, like having these installed and then having to bump them out of alignment, like remove this one so I can install that one. And down here, you can't just install whatever. I tried to install just these 4/8, which kind of temporarily is functioning, but you can see if I start from this side and go all the way here, this one keeps bumping out of its spot because it's supposed to be held in there by the overlap from the one next to it. So I have to keep putting this back where it belongs, and it's never going to stay there because it's not meant to. It's supposed to be held in by the next one. So it's just a real finicky thing, unfortunately. All I can say is making sure that these are, properly lubricated, and I'm really having to make sure I'm double checking the math every time I install a row, because sometimes, like with an 8 or a 9, I would install an 8 and it would be adding 7, and maybe the 9 would be adding 8. We just saw the 1 was adding 2. The good news is the 1s are pretty, when you start with the 1s, there's not much stuff that has to get out of the way. It's a very short key. It's right at the front. And, no matter what these number wheels say at the time, I can still count to 1. I'm pretty good at that. But if you ask me to count, hey, this one says 5, and then I press 8, it's 3. But, I'm actually so bad at mental math that I'm going to second guess myself. And unfortunately, when the keys are not fully installed properly, you can lock up the machine by trying to clear it. I was finding that I knew something was, or the same thing was happening in my case. These levers would be, or the buttons would be installed. There would be some type of issue where one of the keys, usually the 9, or I guess maybe the 2, was not returning all the way to the top. And there's a little, I guess it's like a release of some sort that happens right at the top of the keystroke at the very end. And if that doesn't happen, trying to clear it, I'll get this far, and then it will lock up right here. So I won't be able to push this back. I won't be able to hit any more keys. And when that happens, I'm just having to, it's pretty, I mean, you can tell usually which row it is, and it's always one of these levers is stuck. One of these long levers. It's usually for mine, it's the one on the far left, and I just have to push it to the right, and it will drop down unless something else is jammed, and then I should be able to finish clearing it. But I'm going to keep going. I know the proper thing to do in this situation would be to fully disassemble all of these, remove the top plate, and do some further investigation. But I have made it this far, and the sunk cost fallacy right now is preventing me from doing that. Because look, I can add numbers. Like, that's correct, That's I just can't do it, So I'm really hoping I don't get to row 2 and then discover that I was wrong the whole time. But I guess we'll see what wins out, doing it slowly and correctly, or just kind of winging it like I have been doing a lot on this machine. All right, I was finally able to get all of these buttons inserted in a way that wasn't going to jam. Um, so the issue ended up being the first row, which was, funny because that was like the one row I thought was fine. I was able to get the closer I got, so I started with one, did 9. The twos weren't working, so I went 8, 7, 6. By the time I got to 4 and then 3, it was starting to have the same problem again, where it wasn't quite, some of these columns or some of these buttons were kind of not wanting to return all the way. Another big issue is that, when I would press down certain buttons, especially 2 or 4, I think, the 1 would start to move. So something was pulling it down, and that was kind of a giveaway there. But let's see. So here's the 100 of these guys. And I was terrified when I took this apart because I didn't know at the time that, every single one of these, row by row and by column, has a different diameter spring, and everything is super. And that may be the case. Honestly, I didn't. I just did it by row, and I didn't have any issues there with spring tension. But I noticed that these guys right here, I almost want to. I don't want to take them out, but maybe just do this. So this, they're very easy to bend. I think when I was taking them out, something about the fact that they seem to be retaining their shape, I just never thought about it. But the issue ended up being that, especially on the first row, the lever or the key shaft, let me get really close in there. It's really hard to film this. That's pretty good. Okay, so this shaft on every button rides on a little, bumper, I guess, immediately on the left of it. So I'm going to push the button, and you should be able to see the, oh, no, that's over there. There we go. Okay, so that's the right side. Let's get on the left. You can kind of see where, okay, maybe that one, no. See what I've done now, by fiddling with it, is I've triggered the whatever mechanism, which is, I think I've voiced my opinion about that thing enough. But there's a bumper on the left side of every one of these. On this one, the ones column, let me point this out. It's just right here. So it's dang. The ones are really hard to get to. Let's it's almost. We can almost do it. That's almost. I'm gonna get my little tiny. So here it is. It's just right there. Every single one of these rides on the thing on the left. It's really not. I probably didn't need to show you that. I'm sure description would have been enough. Maybe. Haha, there you go. You see how the button, no, the button, there it is. So it's on the left. It's riding on the shaft. I'm not even going to use words anymore. Um, uh, that thing, that's what it is. The thing right there, I'm sticking my little thing on. That's what I'm talking about. And you see, it slides on it. That wasn't so hard. Anyway, if these are pushed too far to the left, they're not going to slide very well. If they're pushed too far to the right, it's gonna, it has to be in exactly the right place. In my situation, they were all riding a little bit too far to the left. So I noticed that on the rest of these columns, And a pretty easy way for me to check this was just seeing how easy it was for me to move one of these to the right. Honestly, I would do it without the this guy attached, but I can push that to the right. It's not that challenging. But on these, they were all impossible to move to the right. I guess up here. And the really simple fix for me was honestly, I just took out every single one of these guys from the. I'll just take this one out because it's the first one right here. So this is number 1-1. This is like the original OG one. It's also not. I thought this would be easy. See, this is kind of what it looks like to actually work on these. Is you just kind of have to fiddle with it. Okay. These legs were too far squeezed in. I don't know if that was from how I removed it. It would be kind of weird that I would have squeezed all of these too hard, but not any of the other ones. But to fix it, all I did was just kind of look at the other ones and just bend the legs out a little bit. There were a few where this foot thing on the hinge, so there's the one on the right was typically okay. The one on the left, I had noticed on a few of these due to it being, I don't know why it was bent like that, but this being bent was a problem on a couple of these. But after I just took every single one of these out of the first row and just stretched them out a little bit and put them back in, it fixed every single column. So at least it wasn't that whatever. I mean, I knew after I got done with row 2 that I wasn't going to take these back out. It was going to be some kind of a bending situation. So now, because this takes 2 hands, we're just going to watch me kind of struggle with this for however long it takes until, there we go. Okay, so we get that one in there, and it fell out again, because, that's how this works. There we go. So, finally, can stick this stupid thing. You can get it. You just gotta kind of finagle it around, because that's just how this stupid thing works. Oh, there we go. And then finally, you do that, and then boom, and then it's perfect, and then it definitely works. Because if it didn't, I probably would have threw this thing out the window. All right. Let's see. So after I figured that out, got all these in, it all ran very smoothly. I noticed after I had put all of these in that I still needed to put in the little button for everyone's favorite brand new feature, the like whatever autocorrect system. So I went to my little bag full of nonsense and I grabbed the little button, and of course, the button on my favorite thing. This is a thicker diameter on the shaft right here, and so that's the issue I'm running into now. I think I might not have the technical vocabulary to describe this issue, but it won't fit. It just won't fit. So you have so now what we're going to do is I'm going to take the top off, and then I might gripe about it a little bit and see how well this works. So there's the little things, the little clippies in the back, and you have to do this, and there we go. See, that wasn't that bad. And now I'm gonna take this. Yeah, this is. I'm glad it's going this way, because this is a snapshot of what it's like to actually work on these things. This is why whenever people make videos and they're actually struggling with something, I'm always impressed because I wouldn't want to have to. It's anyway. So we're gonna stick the thing in like that. Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. It's sometimes you just oh come on. Oh, there it is. See, it's got some nastiness on it, and then I'm gonna put the button on, and now I'm going to use this very cheap knockoff oil because I don't believe in the really expensive oil. Okay, and look at that. See, it's working perfectly now. I hope you guys enjoyed the opportunity to see how this thing actually is in case you were planning on buying one. The good news is, in case you watch this video and think, wow, I really want to do this, they're $40 on eBay right now. You can go on and you can say, hey, I want one of these, and I guarantee you there's going to be a dozen of these, probably with like $10 shipping. It'll arrive all banged up, and this will be meant. But these things are a dime a dozen. You know, they're not going to work. But now, oh, hey, check this out. When I redid it, I accidentally didn't hook it in right. So I think at this point I'm just going to stop the video because if I keep doing this, I'm going to say some things that I probably will regret. All right, I got everything I guess dealt with there. I wanted to make a apology video to the Felton Tarrant Manufacturing Company of Chicago, because I was arrogant, you see, and I didn't realize that they don't just give these patents, all those, they don't just give them away for nothing. And I should have known better because they thought ahead with this feature. The Comptometer had been around for decades the time that this feature was released. So people were used to the system, and they introduced this, and they knew that, hey, you know what? Some people are going to want to turn this off because it's new, and some people are going to want to be able to use it, and they're going to learn. But some people are just going to want to use it the way they've always used it. It's kind of like how modern companies with all this AI stuff, like this is like 1930s AI, you see. So I don't know about you guys, but I really appreciate that every company that makes these little AI tools, they always have a little thing that says, hey, press this if you never want to hear about Copilot ever again, and just let me go to Outlook so I can read my emails. Or, kind of like how with what is it, Adobe Reader, I've never seen that AI message at the top every single time I have to do anything with a PDF because they gave you the option to opt out. So these guys, I don't know what I was thinking, but when I took these guys off, I thought they were decimal indicators, and I was all pissed off about it. But no, these are they came shipped with these things so that if you wanted to disable basically the little error detection system, all you had to do is take these and just stick them all right there, just like that. You see, and they did that so that anyone could very easily just do that, and then it'll never happen again. See, I can erroneously press as many keys. Oh, you see, sometimes you just gotta really get it in there. It's you just gotta really you just you really just gotta shove them in there, and then it'll never do it again. And I'm really happy. This thing only went off 400 times when I was putting all of these keys in, and sometimes, the thing about putting these keys in is it's gonna jam up because you got to get them all past like 50 different levers to get them in the right spot. And so I really got to appreciate that every single time I would try and get a key in, and it wasn't quite going in, and then oh, it was just Felton Terrence with their very sophisticated system here, and every time I got to go and figure out and get the lever pressed down. But now that I have figured this out and I've seen the light, I really just got to say that they've outdone themselves. This is the kind of forward thinking that I respect in companies that make these. All right, I wanted to point out I guess a pretty minute detail. It's probably going to be kind of hard to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this. See, I mean it's a 1080p camera, but even then it's asking a lot. So let me get a magnifier in to kind of see what I can do about that. Okay, so hopefully that is good enough. Maybe. So if you look really closely, and don't feel bad if you can't see this, because I think this would take a trained eye to notice. These two buttons right here are not the right buttons at all. And you can tell that by the way that they're lopsided, and like you can just see that they're obviously not the right buttons, right? And so this is just a very subtle artistic detail. It's a nod, I guess, a subtle nod to the fact that I don't have those buttons. But I do have a whole box of these buttons right here. So hopefully you're able to see that. Again, don't feel bad if you can't see that. But that's just a little quick detail I wanted to point out. All right, here's the fully restored Comptometer. I got my cinematic turntable here just to kind of show this thing off. I'd like to draw your attention away from this area. So as we rotate, please keep your eyes kind of more in the, maybe also not over here. I've got this. There's a lot of comptometers out there. I don't know how many debadged comptometers we've got. Also, I haven't seen that many that were actually polished. Probably because most people would see that as a disrespectful, historically inaccurate thing. But I like it. I'll learn to like it. Okay, so what we've got going on now. Yeah, so you might think that this is busted if you were to use it. However, what's actually going on is we got the stupid button. So, yep, okay. Hopefully that's fixed now. Nope, okay, I haven't hit the right one yet. That's the problem. So we're going to just run through. I don't remember which one I had to mispress for this to happen, but I'm just going to keep going through all of these. So if you're an accountant, this is really convenient because you just hit every button until you remember which one you messed up. Because you always know when you make a mistake what the mistake was, and that you made a mistake. That's why when you're doing math, you always get the right answer. Anyway, so having hit every button, yep. So that's cleared the error. So in doing this, I have only, messed up whatever number I had in there by an order of magnitude, which I think in accounting we can usually just kind of chalk that up to a rounding error. Most of the accountants I know, it's just kind of it's more of a vibe than a game of accuracy. It's just kind of whatever. That's why the IRS doesn't bother to audit individuals, because it's like, yeah, anyway. As you can see, all of these are perfectly aligned. There's zero amount, like that one. This one's clearly perfectly aligned. If you can't see that, I really would hope you get your eyes checked, because eye problems can definitely become a big issue later in life, and it's important that we get these things early on. I can hit all these buttons all day long. You know, it's pretty easy for me to just kind of go, whee! Of course, I'm going to lock it up. But it would be really hard for me to demonstrate how this thing is supposed to be used because I'm not very good at it. It's really hard to use this machine. If you look up other videos of people using this, it's just a very frustrating and challenging. The skill curve is vertical. Anyway, but I am going to do a little demonstration of how to multiply on this thing because I can figure that one out. So let's say I want to do 25 times 25. If I'm just going to add 25 once, do that once, add it again, that's 50, 75. So, you know, a grossly misinformed child like I am would probably think, okay, so I got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just got to keep going. Oh, I overshot it. Oh, well. But, you know, with anything else, so if you could do 25, so 25 times 5 in the first column, 2 in the second column, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 6, 25. This is, you know, how a lot of this, I mean, this machine is useful because you can kind of do yourself what a lot of these other machines do mechanically, like this one over here. Technically, I'm not going to demonstrate this because it's a lot of effort on my part, and I'm lazy. But these things will hold down. If you hold these guys down on every column, it will prevent a carry in the next column. And this, combined with the complements to each digit that are listed. So if you wondered what these were, 7 is 2's complement. 6 is 3's complement. This gets confusing up here because which one's 4, which one's 5? How am I going to know that? Well, Fulton Tarrant thought that one out. They have the even columns or rows are indented, and the odd ones are indented. The even ones are flat, so you don't even have to look. You just know. But using that, you can do subtraction on this. You can do division. You can technically do cube roots, square roots. There's a lot of things you can do that require a lot of skill that I do not have. But I don't know. There's not a lot of debadged, polished comptometers out there. You know, these things, I took them off. I don't regret it. I will justify and rationalize anything I do, and you can't stop me. But I will say that Felton Tarrant, as a company, they really figured out, much like the Wright brothers when they invented the flying, they figured that one out. These guys, you know, there's the patents up here. There's like hundreds of patents these guys hold. They're extremely litigious as well, so they made this thing, the basic kind of whatever concept of this in the late 1800s, and it was way better than anything else at the time, so people tried to copy it, and so they sued like everybody who did anything that was at all similar to Comptometer. I think Burroughs was a big case where they had a huge settlement there. I think Burroughs had to completely just make a whole other thing because they basically copied these guys. But as the years dragged on, as the Comptometer models kept going, you know, they didn't do anything earth-shattering. You know, like if you look at these things side by side, it's like, hey, this one, we added this system. This is probably the most complicated new thing they added, in my opinion. I mean, in the 50s, they made a motorized version of this, and you know, the cool thing about that was all it did was make it so that when you push the button, you don't have to push it down as hard, I guess, because the motor would spin it, but it doesn't make it automatic in any way. They made a sterling silver model. They changed the shape of the keys, and then they changed them back. they just didn't really, nothing that was, you know, it was like when they make a new FIFA every year kind of thing. Meanwhile, just to kind of put things in perspective, they were making the Model J, I believe, in the 20s and 1930s. This over here, the Freedom Model ST with fully automatic multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, all that stuff, was produced in 38, I believe. The first one came out. So, so they were still making this exact model. You know, as the years dragged on, these other companies, they couldn't copy the Comptometer. They had this thing fully intellectual property protection. They knew what they were doing there. Everyone else kind of was forced to make something else that ended up being better. So eventually, these guys just bit the dust. I don't know. This is I gotta say, like, this is a machine that I don't particularly want to buy machines and restore them that I won't really be able to practically use. And this one's just one of those. Yep. And this is one of the reasons, is this system here. Anyway, that's a kind of final assembled shot of this thing. I hope I didn't offend any Comptometer fans out there, because I've said some stuff that's probably a little critical of these guys. But you know, all that being said, this thing was in awful shape when I got it, and it's working fine. Working fine. As you can see, everything is fully. It just works. You know, it's like the Apple thing. Like, it just works. You know, I can do this and just do exactly what I want it to do. Anyway, thank you for sitting through my video.